I also think that the issue of diversity across sort of museums and galleries is one that is certainly sort of to sort of put a sort of generic term, black faces across the whole of the museums and gallery sector at the moment. It is a very small percentage that is represented, and I know that there is a diversity issue that is burning away, that we are trying to get more people, from these communities and from different voices and different backgrounds to actually be represented within our sector. And it is not going to just be sort of something that goes away after the end of this partnership and this collaboration. It's something that will be worked on, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a black voice that is the one that's needed in the future. It might be something completely different. It may be an exhibition that is looking at different questions, and different answers will be needed. And obviously the people that are asked to respond will be the people who have a history or a dialogue or a narrative that they can actually bring to those objects or artworks that can hopefully sort of tell the story in a new, fair and open way.
Have you got any African in you? Because I love your in-your-face question. But no, I love it. I know Kevin did, didn't you?
I did,
yeah, I know you are. But it's nothing new. I have to say this, it's nothing new. I've been in the arts now 21 years. How long have you been in?
20 years?
Yeah, 21, 22 years. And it took me a long time to even say the word poet, to say I'm a poet. But I was lucky to come in when we weren't black then, we were multicultural. And I've lived through multicultural, cultural diversity and whatever bloody BME is.
BME now, yeah.
And because I was naive, I suppose, in many ways, I've worked with the Corner House, I've worked with Manchester Gallery, Leicester Gallery, interpretive work. Along those 20 years, there have always been individuals in galleries and museums who wanted to change the face. What happens is they move on. And even 20 years ago, the then director of Manchester City Art Gallery passed me a file that he'd produced 5 years earlier, making his staff go out and meet other representatives of society. So people have always done it, but you build a relationship and people move on and they have to start again. The only other problem about it is, Andrew's quite right in saying what the next exhibition might be different, and therefore that representation or that marriage might need to be different, is if there was another black exhibition, most definitely we shouldn't work on it. Because then we've become part of the institution. Do you know what I mean? So we have to go somewhere else, someone different, someone, I hate to keep saying this word today, but younger, different eyes to look at it. So there's two issues. The issue of we found our black person, that's who we're going to work with. Take Liverpool, used to have their favourite black artists, they only work with them. Or you get the working relationship going right and the staff move on. And quite often what happens is, and this is the real negative, is when it is a black exhibition, that member of staff becomes a black expert and their careers go here and we're still here.
Yeah.
No, but that is true. That is true, Yeah.
I just want to know that when you go to meetings, which you must go to, and you must go to Arts Council funding meetings, wherever you go for your funding, you don't just go with, right, well, we did that exhibition and we've ticked that box and we had 2 black people worked on it, and it's not like that. You're really passionate about it. You really mean it.
They're down in the States, so aren't you? I mean, no, but you know what I mean. The director goes to meetings.
Yes, I think that
You've just been accused of being institutionally racist, which is why you're doing all this box ticking, isn't it?
No, well, that isn't the case. Right. This is coming from a way of thinking about making knowledge present about collections. And the way that museums and galleries think about their collections is in a process of transition at the moment. We're moving away from the idea of the single authorial, curatorial voice who's sort of all-knowing, all-seeing, knows everything about the objects in their collection. That was certainly the model of being a curator when I started in the late 1970s. And we're moving now, in the process of transition, into a period where the curator, yes, will have an area of specialist knowledge, but will also be acting in the role of a facilitator to enable other people who have more knowledge in many instances about particular areas of the collection, that those ideas can also be brought forward. So that an exhibition like Trade and Empire, we've seen very much as a co-production. It's been a co-production between the Whitworth and the 4 people involved who are there to represent voices which are not present within the gallery. And I think that model, if you like, that way of working with collections, where collections are seen as objects which are at a nexus, as an intersection point where different knowledges intersect, different stories can be told. That model of museum and gallery collections is the way forward. So I don't see it as being a one-off or institutionally racist, what we've been doing at all. I think it's part of integrated into the way that we do our day-to-day jobs.
Yeah, I just had another question. I wanted to pick up on this idea of trade and empire and this idea of commerce. Because it seems to me that what's absent from the mobilizing of slave history is the fact that 1807 was also used to mobilize further colonial occupation of India and Africa. And it seems to me that that fact of the abolition is not exactly being talked about. And it's I don't know if you guys are aware, if you saw it on the BBC, but it's also the 100-year anniversary of the Boy Scouts. And when they showed that on the BBC, there was no mention of the fact that the Boy Scouts is all about training young boys to prepare themselves for the colonial civil service. So you want to talk about...
All the Asian powers involved in the exhibition on the Ashantis.
Yeah. Exactly. So I was just wondering if you wanted to make any comment on not just slave history but colonial history. I just wondered if
that said that it was important that indentured slavery had a voice in this. I'm in Black Art Science, and for us, black is politically black. It is African, Caribbean, Asian. And we did an event here called Free Drum, and that was important that we had. It was around drumming, obviously, that we had Asian drummers in there as well, because to see it separately is to be silly, you know. We now know that the experiments that became the experiments of the Gestapo on Jewish people was practiced on Africans in Kenya. You know, that link is such a burdensome chain. But it's, you know, you can only climb one mountain at a time. I don't mean that as a weak excuse, and don't, God forgive if I ever sound like a liberal. But the mindset can only cope with one thing at a time. And the way history has been represented, there is an individual rejection of history of slavery, because am I meant to be felt, you know, you're trying to make me feel guilty. I think one thing we haven't addressed, and it's obviously too late now, the work's up, is there is a black presence now in the UK through you know, self-immigration, self-movement, and then people who we tag as refugees who are coming in, who, if you go to the Imperial War Museum, you'll probably see the biggest representation of the human being in their audience. I mean, it's amazing, because it's an immediate history for a lot of the people who come in there. Every year, I'm not jumping around this, but every year an email comes through somebody who I absolutely hate, because I do remember all the things on it, and he'll say, you know, the kids today don't know who James Brown was, you know, they don't know, and you think, oh my God, you know, Angela Davis is coming to London next week. Who's Angela Davis? There's a whole representation of young people who are not just simply white, but black, who have no knowledge of slavery, because their life has been about their own survival. So, how do we make this exhibition relevant? Because we know slavery still exists, but it's not called that anymore. It's called We Found a Job. And how do we make those connections without people, our own people, saying, so, you know, and England's wonderful and it's safe, and I've got a hat. Do you know what I mean? So it isn't, the arts can't do it alone. It's a collectiveness that has to continue. I mean, I feel very strong about that.